Hey everyone, and welcome to a new Video Addict new release roundup. My name is Mike Vaughn, and as always, I'm not alone when I'm talking about some awesome releases, and I have with me Dillon Gonzalez.
Thanks, Michael. As you mentioned, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I am a senior critic for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And we have a really great slate of releases this week that I'm so excited to talk to you about.
Absolutely. And more exciting is we're going to keep this giveaway train going with Bordertown seasons 1 and 2, courtesy of Kino Lorber. And I think this is an excellent show. Have you watched it yet?
I have not had the chance to watch it. I know that everyone loves the dark and dreary European crime dramas, but I haven't got to check this one out.
Yeah, and it's very easy to be entered to win. Just comment and say, tell us kind of what title that we've covered that you're most excited about, and it's just that easy. And
just that easy.
Free stuff, really. And Kino, we are huge fans of them here at the Video Addict. They put out such amazing releases, and yeah, this isn't like no exception. These are both 3 discs, seasons 1 and 2. I believe season 2 just came out not too long ago. So if you're kind of new to that show, what a great time to check it out. So yeah, and again, just comment with one of the titles that we've talked about and why you're excited for it, and there you go. And with that, I'm going to kick off my first title, and that is the 4K of Singin' in the Rain, and from Warner Brothers. And this is really incredible. So check out this packaging, first of all. Like, that is gorgeous.
I love to see a classic title on 4K.
Yeah. And slipcover. I'll show you the inside. This also will have a digital copy and 2 discs. So you do have this also on Blu Ray, so that's good for you to know. If you haven't quite upgraded yet, but the Blu Ray still is a marked improvement, I think. So yeah, so this ports over, I'll show you here. It ports over a lot of the features from the previous releases. So gosh, I don't know what else to say about this movie. It's arguably one of the pinnacles of like 50s cinema, if not like encapsulates sort of like the best classic movie of all time. I'm not a big musical guy. Like, I will be completely like honest, I'm not like really into like, there's some musicals that I really like, but it's a genre that I kind of have a little bit of a hard time engaging with. But Singin' in the Rain is really charming. The songs are amazing, iconic. Weirdly enough, doing research for this title, it was only nominated for 2 Oscars and it won 0.
Okay.
Which is so weird to think about because it's such an iconic classic movie. But there you go. But I will say that this looks fantastic on 4K. I did notice that there is a little bit of where like the picture kind of looks a little bit on the softer side and maybe not as sharp. But that's very minor. Overall, it's really crisp and clean looking. The colors really pop. Obviously, this is like a big splashy Technicolor movie, so you would expect like a 4K to really pop, and it does. So The music is great. It's has a really nice Dolby track. It is a Dolby 5.1 track. I wanted to make sure it wasn't a Atmos track, but yeah, just I don't know what else to say. It's great. It's a great movie. It looks fantastic. You know, again, the images just like leap off the screen. You know, Warner Brothers always does a really great job of like doing really good contrasting with their colors, where it's not like muted, but it like still you know, it's not oversaturated either. It just finds that really nice sort of like middle ground. So yeah, like the color grading on this is really top notch. So like I've had this in other releases that I've kind of compared, and you know, again, Warner Brothers is always really taking care of their like older titles, but you can definitely see a marked improvement. So if you're looking for an excuse to like upgrade, or if you don't own this title, this is like the perfect time. There you go.
Yep. It's always been on the wish list.
Yeah, again, it's just like the songs are so great, they get stuck in your head, like they're like it's so like charming. It really is a really fun movie. So yeah, I think that is just like should be on everybody's list.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. I have a release I'm very excited to discuss. I just got it in yesterday, and I'll explain that I haven't been able to watch every single aspect of this yet, but I'll talk about that in a second. And that is Scream Factory's Cursed, the collector's edition. And show this off really quickly here. And it has a reversible cover art that I've already reversed. It's not radically different. There is an unrated cut that you can see here. And the back image is, there we go, slightly different from this. So yeah, the original cover art is just a repurposing of the slip cover, but I'll show that real quick also. Stuck. So yeah, this is, as you can see, a 2-disc set, and it features both the unrated cut and the original PG-13 theatrical cut. And so what I was alluding to earlier is I got this in yesterday, and I watched the unrated cut last night, and I have not been able to watch the theatrical cut in full, but I've kind of spot tested a few of the differences that I knew about, and can kind of judge based on that. So yes, this is from a new 4K scan of the original 35mm original camera negative. And for the most part, it looks really great. It has really sharp, like a really sharp picture, but not like digitally managed, that you can still see some film grain. There's really nice textures on the costumes and within the production design. All the colors look really nice. The one thing I'll mention, and I don't think it's really a problem with the transfer, but I will say I have not seen this movie in over 15 years. So I don't have anything else to compare it to. I think this just has kind of ugly cinematography, and there's like lighting that's not completely flattering to the actors. And I've noticed that it also doesn't help that Christina Ricci is just an incredibly pale person, but it seemed like a lot of the times she was kind of washed out, and like just the lighting wasn't super great baseline, I think. I don't think it's a problem necessarily with the transfer. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but like there are just lighting elements in this movie that don't look great, but other parts of the movie looks like incredible. So I don't think it's a problem with the transfer necessarily, but this is not just always the most visually appealing movie. Other than that, it looks really great. It sounds really great. There's both a 5.1 and 2.0 soundtrack. I viewed it with the 5.1. And there were moments where I thought the sound mixing was a little like forced and like too bombastic at points. But then like as it kind of settled in and didn't try to like oversell the sound effects, it got more natural. And then there were some points that I was very impressed by the sound, like the sound mix. So yeah, this release, it's loaded with special features. I will just say real quickly what the movie is about. It is a movie directed by Wes Craven with a screenplay by Kevin Williamson, which this was kind of geared up to be Scream, but for werewolves. They wanted to put like a spin on the werewolf genre. And as I heard in the special features, Wes didn't really want to take this on. He was kind of approached kind of last minute, but he didn't want to put these people out of work by rejecting it. So he's like, okay, I'll come on board and try to do something with this and make it good. And then Dimension, who put this film out, they kind of tinkered with it and messed with it. And there was an original cut of the film they kind of shot, and then they just scrapped it and they refilmed it with new actors. And that original cut is not included on this. I will say the unrated cut is not the mythical Wes Craven cut, original cut. That's not that. Scream Factory has said that they tried to acquire that, and it's no go. They're not letting that out of their grips, basically. But these are the original 2 releases, and the unrated cut, it is much more violent. There are like arteries of blood spurting out at places. There's like torsos like bisected, and it delivers on the promise of an unrated cut if you're interested in that. But both cuts look really great from what I can tell. What I find particularly fascinating about this release is there's a new interview with the editor. It's about 18 minutes long, and it's very fascinating because he really goes into the problems with the production and kind of the differences between the original vision for the movie and then what Dimension wanted, and then some of the things he describes about like the ending and what they were planning on doing with it, I think would have made the movie a lot better. The movie itself, it's like kind of a typical werewolf movie where it stars Christina Ricci and Jesse Eisenberg and a lot of other really great people. There's a lot of bit parts, but then like Milo Ventimiglia, there's Judy Greer. There's a lot of people playing themselves. It's kind of like a Hollywood satire too. There's like Scott Baio playing himself. There's Lance Bass appearance. Craig Kilborn is like playing himself as when he was a late night host. So I can see where Kevin Williamson was trying to like capitalize on like Hollywood satire while mixing in werewolf stuff. But it doesn't, I had fun with it. I'll just say that I did have fun with it, but it doesn't completely work. And I would have been interested to see the original cut. But I was very entertained, and I enjoyed this movie more than I thought I would going into it. Like I knew it had kind of like a tainted legacy, and I kind of went in with that expectation, and it ended up being good. There was one point near the end, I think it's kind of infamous, but it involves the werewolf doing like a human gesture. I won't ruin it for you, but it had me cackling, and it was great. And the actor who plays the werewolf, Derek Mears, who's a great, he played like the Swamp Thing in the recent CW show. He's done a lot of great work like that. He has a new interview on here too, where he kind of talks about the production and how he kind of ad-libbed that moment. And there's a lot of great interviews on here. All the original special features are included on this. So yeah, the movie, it's entertaining enough. It's a really great release of it. New interviews, all the legacy features, 4K scan. Scream Factory's done a really good job with this. So even though Dimension messed up this movie by their studio tinkering, I still think it's worth a watch if you're a Wes Craven fan, just to see what his spin on a werewolf movie is, no matter how compromised.
Okay. Yeah, that it was funny. I was thinking that I actually saw this in theaters when it was new. Yeah, I probably haven't even seen it since then, if I'm being honest. So that's
Yeah, same. This was the first time I'd returned to it.
yeah, that but it sounds I was gonna say the release sounds great. The movie sounds so.
It's an interesting watch. It surprises me how many familiar faces there are. Like there's even an appearance from Nick Offerman randomly, and I'm just like, what are you doing here? So check it out.
Is he playing himself, or
he plays a police officer who's like,
okay,
there's no werewolves around here. That's pretty much the extent of
it. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's basically what got him Parks and Rec was his amazing work in that. So my next film is from Warner Archive, and that is Fandango. And it is one that I had never even heard of. I don't know about you, but
I had heard of people requesting it on like the forums, but I had never I didn't know what it was about.
Yeah, same. I went in completely blind. I don't often do trivia, but I thought this was kind of interesting. I do a lot of homework on these titles, and this was co-produced by Kathleen Kennedy. She is now the head of Lucasfilms, and I think that's kind of awesome. So Kevin Costner stars in this. It's kind of like a road trip movie. It's kind of like a young people in the crossroads of their lives, and this is like one last kind of hurrah before they go on to, I guess, like in this case, like Vietnam. Like one of them is drafted. Like there's a whole like plot, kind of contrived plot about this one guy trying to get married. Hijinks ensue. There there's this kind of amazing scene where they're trying to essentially get this like train to like tow their car. And yeah, so like there's that like huge buildup, and it's like it's just so like the pacing, the editing is like it's like this like MacGyver style mission, and then it just goes like instantly sideways. And yeah, I overall really liked it. The acting is great. I think Kevin Costner and like Judd Nelson give like really stellar performances. Like it's not that I never really liked Kevin Costner, but like for some reason and this is no shade, but I don't really think of him as like a great actor. But I have to say that like I'm happy to eat my words because he's like fantastic in this. Same with Judd Nelson. The two of them really play off nicely with each other. I will say on the flip side of that, it's very heavy-handed at times. It's there's times when it's not subtext, it's like text that's screaming in your face. Like there's that scene in the cemetery where they're like doing like the bottle rockets and stuff, and it's like he's like, oh man, this is gonna be like Vietnam, and it's just so like it's a little hammy and like I said, heavy-handed. And I think that there's elements that feel that like they could have used a little bit more polish, and like some of the threads in the film kind of feel maybe underdeveloped. But overall I really liked it. I thought it was a really fun movie. Like there's definitely yeah, it's really wild. It's just a really weird, it was I wasn't expecting it to be kind of as absurdist as it ended up being in moments, which I liked. Again, it's corny. If you can get kind of past some of that, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that when I watched it with my wife, and she described Judd Nelson's character as like a bizarro version of Bender from The Breakfast Club. It's like he went
Yeah.
the total opposite direction.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. But just like how intense Judd Nelson can get, like in that, and like just like it's not even so much in the like the dialogue of just like how like so in the moment he is. Like there's times when he was having that like breakdown where he was just like, I was like, wow, I'm right there with him on that. Like it's pretty incredible. So fun oddly enough, I have another Warner Archive title with Kevin Costner. So it's like going to be a little bit of a Kevin Costner double feature. I think it's the same year they both came out.
Yeah.
So, but to be continued.
Yes, which is exciting for me because, like, unlike you, I'm a Kevin Costner fan. Like, I can understand that he's not like one of our best actors, but I find him very charming and charismatic. So
Yeah,
I usually seek out his movies.
I'm not. It's not that I'm not like. It's not that I'm not a fan. I just never really think about like when I think of like amazing actors. I never really think about Kevin Costner. And
Yeah, he's just solid. He's just a solid actor.
Yeah,
He just like does his job pretty well, gets it done. That's what we want from you, Kevin. Well, segueing to one of our great actors, our great Canadian James Carey. I'm talking about Shout Factory's release of Liar Liar starring Jim Carrey.
nice.
Another one that I eagerly watched with my wife over the weekend because she had been wanting to watch this for quite a while again, because she's a huge Jim Carrey fan. And I had been wanting to pick up the Shout Factory release, and I finally got it. And we had a weekend. Here's the reversible cover art. Yeah. And I don't think I have to describe Liar Liar to most people, but I'll still throw out a quick synopsis nonetheless. It's just basics. Jim Carrey plays a lawyer who has a young son, and he's separated from his wife. And he's always lying as a part of his job and just his personal life. And his son makes a wish that he would just not be able to tell a lie for one whole day. And then hijinks ensues when it comes true, and he's trying to represent Jennifer Tilly in this like divorce settlement, and he cannot lie, and it's a time. This movie, there's a lot of dated elements. I will admit that. I think a lot of the 90s comedies, it's a fact of life. There's going to be some dated elements. Nevertheless, it is a really funny movie, and just the sheer physicality of Jim Carrey is just like mind-boggling. Just like how he contorts himself and like bends over backwards to wring every ounce of comedy out of a line. It doesn't work for everyone. I know he can probably be a bit much for some people, but if you are a Jim Carrey fan, this is like one of like his like upper tier performances, like comedic wise. Like dramatic wise, I'm more of like an Eternal Sunshine Truman Show type person. But Liar Liar is one of his like better comedies. It's hilarious. Had a great time with it. Why should you get this Shout Factory release? I'll tell you why. The old Universal Blu-ray was digitally tinkered with to hell. It looked awful. It looked like a wax painting. It looked awful. And this one's from a new 2K scan of the inner positive. This is never going to be a beautiful looking film. It still has a very soft appearance overall, just from the way it was shot, but it looks very film-like and natural. It looks immensely cleaned up in a natural way. Like there's no print damage, but it looks very film-like, and it looks very good compared to, especially to the old Universal Blu-ray. There's a new 22-minute interview with the screenwriters where they kind of like talk about the development of the movie. There's another 18-minute interview with the actresses Jennifer Tilly and Swoosie Kurtz. So that's fun. They get on and the Skype and talk to one another. And then they have all the legacy special features. So if you are a fan of this film and you don't own it, or you own the old Universal Blu-ray, I would still recommend picking this up. Like, I think I've seen this recently on sale for like as cheap as like $12 or $13. So you don't want that old eyesore of a Blu-ray. You want the Shout Factory Blu-rays. So I recommend it. I'm a Jim Carrey fan, so I really appreciated that they released this and made it look a million times better.
Yeah, I actually do own that release. I was very excited about it. I like pre-ordered it like day one. So I definitely agree. I think it looks a million percent better. It's such a fun movie, and it was one of these movies that like was kind of like a staple, and I feel like a lot of 90s kind of households, as with a lot of like Jim Carrey movies. So part 2 of the Warner Archive, Kevin Costner Othon.
Let's do it.
So here's the back. Let me ask you a question. Do you like giant mustaches and competitive cycling?
Do I? Yes, I do.
Because if you do, this is the movie for you.
Finally.
Yeah, right? Like, so, gosh, I'm going to try to be really nice because I am not very interested in competitive cycling. I can't even say it. But yeah, it's well written. The screenwriter is a literal Oscar winner. It really didn't connect with me because I thought it kind of felt very soap opera-y, like it's kind of maybe a little schmaltzy, kind of corny. So like the setup is, you know, Kevin Costner is kind of estranged from his like mother and like brother, and I guess like the brother is suffering with an illness that their father had, and they think that he has it too. So in order to sort of like give the brother this kind of last hurrah, they enter into this like competitive cycling race. And so it's very Lifetime movie. You know, it's I see where they're going with it. It's just I didn't particularly find it engaging. It was a little bit of a slog. I will say that it's well directed. The acting's really good. You know, I gave on Letterboxd, I gave it an extra star just for Kevin Costner's mustache.
Fair.
He deserves, you know, the mustache that deserves an award by itself. But yeah, I mean, I could see like if you're really into that sport, you know, and you kind of knew that world and found that really engaging, I could see this movie being for you. Like I think the mark of a good movie is like, even if you're not really interested in like if it's like a sports movie or something, that it's still really engaging. Like I know that it's like the same thing with like war movies. Like if you're like, there's some movies like The Hurt Locker that kind of transcends that and makes it engaging on different levels. And I just unfortunately didn't think that American Flyers kind of had that sort of universal appeal outside of like, you know, cycling enthusiasts and giant mustachioed Kevin Costners. So yeah, but again, it's interesting because this was, I believe, also released in '85, the same as Fandango, with Kevin Costner. And I mean, they're both sort of like Americana, kind of like like American Flyers is a little bit road trippy kind of. But I actually think that Kevin Costner is much better in Fandango because I think that he's given something a little more interesting to sort of like ruminate on. But like, yeah, it's okay. I I didn't connect with it, but I think that it's still a really good release. It looks great. Obviously, I can't compare it to any other releases because it's the first time watching it for me. But I will say that this it's interesting how you were saying about how with Cursed, it wasn't shot maybe the best, and therefore it kind of affects the transfer. And I will say that Warner Archive does a lot with kind of how this was shot. Its its photography is a little bit more on the bland side, so there aren't like shots that look spectacular, but you can tell that the contrast is a little brighter, things are a little bit more like crisp, and the colors are again tempered really well as far as like the contrast. But yeah, it's like shot very flat, so they have to work with what they got. But it still looks good. If you're like a diehard fan, I'm sure it probably looks better than like the DVD or VHS or laser disc or whatever it's been on. But yeah, I gave it a shot, and yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I will admit I have not had a chance to get around to this one just yet, but even after everything you've just said, I still think I'm probably going to enjoy it, just knowing myself. Like sometime, like a couple months ago, my wife and we watched this track movie. I think it's called Without Limits, about Stephen Prefontaine, and it had Billy Crudup, which I would want Warner Archive to release this one, but like I'm not a particularly big fan of track or like that sport, but it was like still interested in me enough, and like I was like engaged enough.
Yeah.
And like I don't care about cycling, but I like Kevin Costner and I like sports movies, even though I don't like watching sports in real life. So I'm still excited to watch it. I'm gonna
and like I think that there is an audience for this. It's just not necessarily me.
Fair enough.
And that's fine. Like it is a nice release. I do think it looks probably, again, I haven't seen it in any other format, but Warner Archive has such a high bar for their restoration. So I can probably say with some confidence it's probably the best it's ever looked. So yeah, but again, don't take my word for it. Check it out if you feel like that sounds like a good time. Again, you have the giant mustachioed Costner sort of, guiding you through the movie. So there's that.
That's all you need. That's really all you need. My next release I'm excited to talk about. It's an Arrow box set. It's a smaller box set, but two films still makes a box set. It is Arrow Video's recent release of Rogue Cops and Racketeers. And it features the Big Racket and Heroin Busters. And show that off. And then the back. And it also, I took off the J card, but you can see it here with all the special features. And yes, I just tucked that right in there. Yeah, okay. I really liked both of these movies, more so this first one, The Big Racket. It is a blast. It is about a group of like criminals who go around as like this community and start forcing the residents to pay up, or like basically they'll burn down their business and like beat the hell out of them. And so yeah, it's like all these people terrorizing this town, and then the cops that are trying to stop it. And it's like a nice police procedural. It's very gritty. One thing I want to point out right away is one of my favorite releases from last year was Arrow Video's Years of Lead. And if you happen to have like checked out that box set or a fan of that box set, this is like a continuation. It's like straight Italian crime, like police thriller. And this, I want to get, these both star Fabio Testi, who I really liked in both of these movies. And it leads up to one of like the best shootouts I've seen on film in a while. It's probably about a 15 to 20 minute warehouse shootout of just like goons getting like mowed down, like sharpshooting from like far away. And I don't know, there's a lot to this movie I really like, and it's just done really well. And within this release, there are like some lobby cards that I'll show off for the big racket. But yeah, it's really well done. There's like kind of like almost like a Dirty Dozen element near the end where he like gathers together all these people to take down the criminals because the system is failing him and stuff. But so that's really great. This next one, the Heroin Busters, it is likewise quite fun. It once again has Fabio Testi going. He's deep undercover this time, and he is trying to take down a heroin ring, as one does. I will see it. These are both have double-sided art. Here's the other side. Yeah. So yeah, this one I guess is pretty like straightforward based on that description. It is just a lot of like police work and like here's some lobby cards of the police trying to take down this heroin ring. It all leads up once again to a thrilling finale, which I kept saying like, oh, how's this going to escalate next? It starts out with like a foot chase, then it turns into a motorcycle chase, and then it turns into like an airplane chase. And I'm just like, you just keep going to a whole nother level. So it's a lot of fun. This also comes with a really nice booklet, pretty thick booklet. That has some good essays that kind of tells you about kind of the Italian political thrillers at the time. I'm going to say something controversial, especially to you and the series that we've been doing. I think I've come to the conclusion that I do like the Italian like police dramas more than the giallos, but I like them both. But there's just something about these like police crime dramas that it gives me that action boost that I need. But I do really love them both. But I had a lot of fun with this. It's a really great set. And if you are a fan of like well done police crime dramas with like really good action, highly recommended.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I know that's definitely one that's been on my list for a while, so that just definitely reinforces my want of that for sure.
Wait, I don't want to forget. I would be mistaken if I did not say these all come from new 2K scans. I didn't even talk about this. They come from new 2K scans. They all look great. Audio commentaries, new interviews with the director and the star on both discs, interviews with the editor, a lot of great new interviews. They look great, sound great, packaging's great. So I almost forgot. I just got so excited about just telling you about the movies that the release itself is packed with special features.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it sounds like it's as action-packed features-wise as it is. See how smooth that was? Yep. Look at that transition.
You got me. You got my back. I appreciate it.
My next film is also Warner Brothers from their DC line, and that is Constantine, the House of Mystery. And first of all, let's just appreciate how like like gorgeous that packaging is. Slipcover, just like doing the full modeling here. There's shows you the extras. So obviously slipcover, and I'll show you the disc. This also comes with a digital copy. That's not in that right now, but will be in yours. And so, yeah, this one, I will say from the outset that if you aren't familiar with like any of the DC animated series of films, it's probably going to be a little bit alienating and confusing. This is like a series of shorts that kind of acts as a direct sequel to Justice League Apocalypse War, but also I get a sense that it's gonna bridge a gap into some newer animated films. So I just wanted to like get that off right, like right off the bat. Yeah, so I am a big fan of the DC animated universe. I have like reviewed other titles like The Long Halloween and the Catwoman one that I just did not so long ago. And consistently, they always have great animation. Like it's always clean. It's like with the 1080p, it like really pops. What's kind of cool about this is it's very trippy. It harkens back to like the Silver Age of like DC and Marvel, where stuff was like cosmic and really like funky and weird. So the animation style reflects that, but it also stays within their house style. So it helps to keep like a consistency throughout the series. That's something else I praised about The Long Halloween, where it stayed within the house style of animation of their uniform style, but then it also kind of reflected the style of the comics that it was based on. So yeah, it's total 76 minutes, and it includes some different shorts. And again, I really liked it, but you kind of have to have a little bit of a primer. Like they do sort of give you a little bit of like context, but again, this sort of acting as a sequel and probably a bridge to other titles. You're going to want to obviously like kind of have a little bit of prior knowledge. So just saying that up front. But I have seen those and really like them, so I definitely enjoyed this continuation.
Yeah, I would just give this pitch. It's basically kind of like a cosmically dark version of Groundhog Day, where like Constantine's trying to figure out what's happening to him. He keeps like reliving these like visions, and I won't go like much further than that, but it's just like him trying to break out of the house of mystery and figure out where he is and what is happening to him. And I enjoyed it too. It's a little bit like just going knowing it's short. It's only like 30 minutes of new material, but if you especially if you haven't collected a lot of the past DC releases, like the extra shorts are also very entertaining. Them like also.
Yeah. So I did in my notes put out it's 26 minutes like total runtime. It definitely, I love the horror elements of it, and since you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. There is some really nice sort of dark humor that I really liked. It's kind of bloody, which if you are familiar with like past DC animated films, they're mostly a little bit more mature, where they'll have a little bit of like violence or like in this case there's like a little bit of like blood. It's not like super gory or anything, but that's probably also something to consider.
Yeah, not for the little kids.
Yeah, it's definitely aimed towards like an older audience, but yeah, it's good. And as you say, the other shorts are really entertaining. I'm so constantly impressed by the voice acting. I think that whoever is like I'm not sure who voice coached this particular product, but just how they can make they do all these voices separately, but then how they can just have it all blend so seamlessly, I think is impressive. So yeah, it definitely, it's up to the standard of the DC animated films, and I highly recommend it. It's really awesome.
Absolutely. Speaking of bloody goodness, I'm going to talk about RLJE's release of the Shudder original Vicious Fun, which I watched Friday night and had an absolute blast with. I will show up. This, surprisingly, RLJE doesn't usually have double-sided cover art, but this one does. So here's the disc art, and here is the reversible art,
Nice.
which is pretty cool. I'm glad that, I hope it's something that they continue with more of their releases, because that's just like a nice extra touch that's really fun for fans. Have you seen this film?
I have not. I am like subscribed to Shudder. It's kind of, I kind of do that like try before I buy kind of thing, but it is on my list, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, this one it's a lot of fun. It's set in like the 80s, I believe, 70s or 80s. And the main protagonist right here, he plays like a horror magazine writer who gets caught up in this. He's kind of like one of the people who's like a sad sack, and he's like,
oh, I'm sorry, I did see this. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just like, I heard some. Okay, yeah, he's like a sad sack who's like kind of hapless and like pining for his female roommate, and he goes out and gets like drunk one night and wakes up, and he's in the middle of this support group for serial killers, and he kind of has to pretend to be one for a little bit until he gets his bearings, and then just like kind of all chaos ensues. So it's like all these serial killers like unloading on one another and just being like, how do you do this? How do you do? So it's like kind of like darkly funny and stuff. And like I said, chaos ensues and bloody goodness and everything. David Koechner's in this. He's a lot of fun. I wish he would have been in here longer, but while he is on screen, he like really makes an impression. The female lead is very good as well. The only weak link I have in this, and I hate to talk bad about anyone, is this guy on the end who kind of plays like the villain of the movie. I didn't find him very convincing. He was kind of bland and not very memorable. But pretty much everyone else, like all the serial killers, have distinct fun personalities, which I really enjoyed. There's this one serial killer who like, he basically has no sense of like human emotion, or so he's like always like jotting down notes that everyone else is saying, trying to figure out how to be human. And it's really funny. But there's like a lot of great kills, a lot of funny lines, and it's just kind of like that kind of zero to hero cliche, but it's done in a really fun way. It's like I said, really bloody, really funny. It's just a really like nice kind of grindhousey good time. If you're into that type of thing, you'll like this. And it has more special features than a lot of RLJ releases. Has filmmaker commentary, deleted scenes and alternate takes, blooper reels, like a script to screen comparison. So a lot of good stuff on here.
Yeah, it's so funny because like so that's kind of a testament to like how much stuff I watch. I was like, when you started describing it, I was like, it clicked. I was like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought it was really fun. I liked how it was like, again, it's like presented sort of as like they're all around the doing like a what is it, like a kind of an AA kind of thing where they're like a
Yeah,
support group kind of thing.
yeah.
And yeah, I remember liking it. It's gosh, it's been a while. I think I probably watched it when it first premiered on Shutter. That was like last year, I think.
Probably. Yeah.
But yeah, this is like a good excuse for me to grab that and check it out again because that is awesome. And we here at Video Addict really like RLJE, and I think that's a pretty good segue into my next release, which is also from IFC Films, and that is Clean.
Well, they're distributed by RLJE, so we're all good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was right.
Yes.
Again, really nice packaging. That's something that I always see. The IFC thing is what threw me. But yeah, beautiful slipcover. So look at that. This does not have reversible art, but there's the disc. And yeah, so I'm again gonna try to be super nice as much as I can. Clean is very much John Wick knockoff. Like it very much wants to be John Wick with its like premise and setup, but it's very pretentious too, though. Like it doesn't have the kind of world building, but also sort of like sense of raucous sort of fun that John Wick has. To be able to like if I'm being real, like John Wick isn't like the premise isn't mind blowing or different. It's just they do such an amazing job of building a intricate world. And obviously like Keanu Reeves as the lead is an instant like hook as well. This kind of doesn't have any of that. Like Adrian Brody's good in this, but you get these like really like pretentious like noir like voiceovers, and there's even this line where she's like, you don't have to save everybody, and he's like, maybe I'm saving myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did he really just say that? Like it's like it almost crosses into that like sweet spot of so bad it's good. Now I will say this, when the action really gets going, I think it's pretty awesome. It definitely turns into that like he has a montage of him like modifying his gun and getting his weapons and like exactly where it's going to go. But it's such a slog to get through to get to that. And not to mention that there's some like really kind of cringy, outdated stereotypes in this film. And, unfortunately, it kind of in a wrong way sort of emulates like a throwback of like action films. Like not in a good way, but like in a way where we like should be moving away from. So yeah, I would like to say that it was good, but honestly, it's not. There's no features on this, which I was a little bit surprised because there's usually just like a featurette or something. It's always really nice because like to get like an interview with the director, even if it's just like a little, featurette worth, because I do think that creator intent is important. And I know that sometimes it gives you a little bit of context that you might need to maybe enjoy it on a repeat viewing, but there's none of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's okay. it does really like give you that like gory adrenaline rush kind of action at the end, but it almost seems like it bucks up against its sort of like art housey, like broody. Like I think that if I'm remembering this correctly, like Adrian Brody's character is just named Clean.
Mm-hmm.
It's so bad.
And he's a garbage man, right?
He's a garbage man. See, but look, see, the irony, like,
Yeah.
isn't that so clever?
Yeah. Yeah, I edited our site review whenever it came out back in January that our reviewer Brandon did, and I still remember a lot from that review and that it wasn't glowing. So it doesn't completely surprise me to hear you say that. I also have it on the docket soon, so I'll see for myself, but I already know to have my expectations.
Yeah. I will say that if you watch it with a group of friends and you kind of know you're expecting something kind of bad, you might still be able to kind of have like a good like time with it, maybe like riffing on it. And I mean, I really don't like ragging on a movie, especially one where I know it didn't have like the biggest budget. It's not super low budget, but it definitely isn't like a huge $1 billion movie.
Yeah.
It just didn't really click for me. I just it's frustrating when something's kind of derivative, like it's just a amalgamation of like better movies, but not done as well.
Yeah. They're gonna do. My next one strangely kind of goes in like with that kind of whole conversation. It's another IOC Films release. It's from RLJE, and it's also inconsistent in quality. I wouldn't say it's as bad as you think Clean is, but it's not a great movie. And that is the movie Mainstream, starring Oscar nominee Andrew Garfield. And this came out last year, and I guess it's good that people probably don't really remember it because it may have hurt his chances. But okay, so I don't want to be mean. This isn't like a bad movie. It's just inconsistent. Andrew, he does a great job. It also stars Maya Hawke and Nat Wolff, and it's directed by Gia Coppola, who, yes, Coppola, that she is related to Francis. So this movie, it's a satire of like modern social media culture. Maya Hawke plays like an aspiring influencer who's working at a bar, and she comes across the Andrew Garfield character one day, and he's kind of a larger than life personality, and she's like, oh, he's interesting and stuff, and he kind of like opens up the world for her and kind of sees things a little bit differently. He's kind of like that kooky free spirit. And then she starts filming him, and he gets popular, and he doesn't really want to be popular, but she convinces him to like kind of capitalize on this like growing success. And he starts to host like this YouTube show that's like becomes insanely popular and is like permeates the culture, but it's kind of like leads to some dark paths. I'll just say that. For the most part, it's pretty entertaining. I would say like the first hour of this like hour and a half, it's a 94-minute movie. It's not great, but it's like solid. Like it's entertaining enough. You're seeing kind of this kind of not exactly, but kind of unstable guy navigating the world with this girl, and there's kind of like an undercurrent of love between them, like a little bit of a romance, but there's also, they're like satirizing the media. But then it keeps going and going, and they actually get to him like hosting his show, and it kind of doesn't seem to have like a clear sense of where it wants to end. It's very unfocused as it reaches the end, and you're like left with this moral uncertain, like murkiness of what is morally right, what should you glean from this kind of like rise and fall, basically. So I think it wants to be deeper than it is. It wants to be like really like, oh, I really stuck it to social media and like the perils of basically what we're doing, like trying to reach a wide audience. But it's unclear as it reaches the end. The reason to watch this is the acting. Andrew Garfield is incredible, even if the script is not the best. Like he gives 100%. He is amazing, and he's like very committed. I'll just say. It doesn't have any special features, so you don't get a lot of that, like you said, the creative intent from the director that may have like helped this even more. But the audio-visual quality, it's perfect. Like, it's what you would expect from a modern release, like perfectly solid AV quality. The movie itself is just inconsistent. It's okay. It's not like a travesty, but it's not great.
Yeah, that definitely sounds interesting. I gather with like the social media stuff, that kind of reminds me of like Ingrid Goes West, which
Yeah.
love that movie.
That does it better.
Does it better, yeah. Okay, so like I'll definitely keep my expectations in check, but I do really like Andrew Garfield, so I feel like I will probably check it out just for that.
Yeah, I know we're physical media people, and I don't want to steer people away from physical media, but I think it's on Showtime right now if you're curious.
Yeah, and like I don't think there's anything wrong with like a try before you buy. Like I'll like stream stuff, but I'll end up buying it anyways because like I mean I don't have any movies at all or anything. My next one is from Kino Lorber and Kino Classics, and that is the Olive Trees of Justice. And so here's the back. And this was one that I will, I'm perfectly fine with admitting I've never even heard of. This came out in 1962, and it's shot in a very like cinema verite kind of style. And it's this really beautiful kind of portrait of a son coming home. His father is dying, and they are reconnecting before he passes. And it also kind of tells of the his childhood on the farm. And it's kind of in the later stages of like war, so there's definitely like an undercurrent of like political and social unrest. It definitely moved me in a lot of ways, just because like I think that these are very universal things about like connecting with a parent, or like coming home and kind of like thinking about your past or whatever. But like my dad passed away from cancer, and so and not to bring this down, but it's just like I could really like resonate with a lot of stuff in this movie. And so yeah, it definitely was a hard watch, not because it was bad, just because it was so good at its job. It kind of like made me reflect on some things in my own life. But it's a beautiful movie. It's really well shot. I will say that like I really love that documentary style of like hiring like non-actors, filming it like a documentary. Like it's there's just beautiful little small moments that I think aren't necessarily cinematic, but I really appreciate seeing like in a movie like this. Like there's a scene where the son's helping the mother make the bed after the father had passed away, and it's just this like little moment, but it's so like beautiful, and it's so like incredibly well shot. So yeah, it's I'm glad I took a chance on this. Again, I'd never heard of it before, but the plot sounded interesting, and I kind of knew it was going to be a little bit of a tender kind of watch, but I'm glad that I took the journey because it's pretty good. And yeah, it also, as you can see, has another like short film as a bonus. It would have really been nice for a commentary track, but it's still pretty great as it is. I believe this comes from a oh yeah, so this comes from a 4K restoration. And yeah, it is stunning looking. Like I said, the movie employs a lot of like there's there's nothing artificial about it. It's very much just shot with like the landscapes and the places really doing the kind of visual talking, and yeah, it's just stunning looking. So it's really nice to have this in 4K. Like it's pretty much flawless. I mean, I will say that there's like a little bit of artifacts and everything, but like this was a movie from 1962, so you're not gonna get something that's like ultra HD quality, but yeah, it's overall really great. And again, very touching movie, and it's worth taking that journey, even if it is maybe a little bit for some people in that situation it could be a little bit difficult, but it's good. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to check that one out. I am very pleased that we didn't really plan this out, but a lot of our releases seem to be like segueing into one another really nicely, just like thematically.
No, we did plan that. We did. See, don't give away our.
Yeah, of course. You talked about kind of like the political unrest and everything in your movie. That kind of dovetails into what I'm about to talk about, and that is the new release of Fabian Going to the Dogs, which was released stateside earlier this year. I think it had a festival run within the past couple of years. It's a German film, 3 hours long. So I haven't been able to listen to the commentary that is on this in full because I only have so many hours in the day, but there is an audio commentary, no other features. But I was very intrigued to watch this movie. It's about, it's set in like 1930s Weimar Republic, as like there's bubblings of like the Nazi uprising, but it's not like quite there. It's kind of, it's like the, if you've seen the show, it's one of my favorite shows in recent years, Babylon Berlin. It's kind of like that kind of time period. It's not as stylistically involved as that show, which once again, everyone should watch that show. It's also been released by Kino Lorber, so highly recommended. But it involves like our lead character Fabian, who he works at like a newspaper, and he meets this girl, and she's an aspiring actress, and she's also like a legal secretary. And one day it's like a time of like social unrest and like poverty. He gets fired from his job, and it's kind of like that struggle, like class issues and romance, and he has like a very wealthy friend who also has his own issues. So it's like this stew of class issues, romance, drama, intrigue, everything. I'm split on this movie. Narratively, I really like it. It kept my attention throughout. One of my favorite films, I think it was from 2018 of that year, was this also German film called Never Look Away. And the reason I mention this, it's also a 3-hour German epic. It stars the main star, and it also stars the woman that he falls for in the movie. So I was just like, ooh, I love that movie. Like, maybe I'll love this movie. And I loved parts of it. The story, like I said, it's really great. Despite being 3 hours, it doesn't test your patience. What I did not like about this movie is the cinematography is whack. The director chooses to shoot portions of this movie. I think it's just like on like an HD camera. Like it'll go from like looking like, I know it's probably more like artistically daring to like mix like camera styles and techniques and stuff, but it'll go from just looking like a perfectly shot movie to kind of like a handheld, kind of like gritty, almost like you said, like kind of like a reality show, not a documentary, but like a reality show that you're like following. And I'm just like, what is this? This looks awful. Like, I don't like it. Because I'm like, I'm such a visual person. I want things to look nice, consistently. And the cinematography just really kind of ruins parts of this movie for me. But the narrative is strong enough that I can forgive it. I would overall recommend it. But if the director just wouldn't have tried to get fancy with it and would have just like, it might have been more boring, but like more just straightforward down the line, like, this is a nice looking movie, I probably would have enjoyed it like 10 times more. But as it is, this movie, obviously, a 3-hour German movie isn't for everyone. But if it sounds like it could possibly be your type of movie, I'd recommend it. I'm not going to force anyone to spend 3 hours of their life like that, but it's for me. Maybe it's for you too.
Yeah, that sounds definitely sounds really interesting. I definitely can see why that would be like super jarring to change like styles like that. So my final film is called Rock Hudson's Home Movies, and this is also from Kino Classics. And
Ooh.
Back. So yeah, this one was really interesting and probably not going to be in a lot of people's radar, and that's kind of why I love like covering this kind of stuff. So the basic setup is it's an actor who's playing like a young Rock Hudson, and he basically kind of narrates sometimes just like pure narration over clips, but then sometimes they like cut back to like him in character, if that makes sense. And the central kind of thesis of the movie is it's showing the queer coded roles that Rock Hudson played, and how some of it was very covert, but some of it's more like overt. And what's kind of really interesting is one of the movies that they talk about is something that I covered a little while back, and that's Man's Favorite Sport from Kino Studio Classics. And so it was like kind of interesting to hear like, when you put like some he like the director does a really good job of like giving you the setup and context that you need, and then you're like, oh yeah, duh, like that's kind of what they were trying to say. I will say that like even as somebody that is like queer identifying, like some of it kind of went over my head too. Like particularly it was like funny because in Man's Favorite Sport, it seems like it's one of the most overtly sort of queer coded movie, and that kind of stuck out because I think it was like something that we like literally just covered. Now I will say that if you are offended by like very charged phrases, dealing with like the queer community, a little bit uncomfortable, but I didn't think it was completely wrong in the context of the film, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to mention that because that might be a non-starter for some people, and that's completely valid and understandable. I think in the context of the film, it doesn't come off like gratuitous or anything. It's you know it's somebody that is expressing this within the guise of their sexuality. So yeah, but I thought it was really interesting. I think that if you are a classic film fan, if you find that kind of stuff really interesting, which I do, I would definitely highly recommend it. It's certainly one of these movies that was a really nice discovery. Yeah, so this was actually a like feature from 1992. So I think this might have even been before The Celluloid Closet, which is a kind of a groundbreaking film about queer coding and how, for a long time and even kind of today, with like the whole like Pixar straight washing things, we always kind of had to exist in the very tiny margin of subtext. Hopefully that seems to be changing a lot now, thankfully, but for a long time it was like it had to be a game of like cloak and dagger of like where you could hide things. But yeah, so I think it's a really worthwhile documentary. I probably should have ended it with a little bit more of an upbeat, and not to say that this isn't it's not like a dour film. It's just there is kind of a somberness because it's such a shame that somebody like Rock Hudson kind of had to do all this like hiding and not really being able to kind of be himself. But I think it certainly is a worthwhile watch. It's not very long. It is only 63 minutes, so it's a very breezy watch. And yeah, have you heard of this or seen it or anything?
I had heard of it, especially since Kino's been releasing a lot of Rock Hudson movies. I was very interested in it, and I do want to check it out. I do not have it in my possession at this moment, but I'll have to seek it out.
Yeah, it's really like it's very fascinating, especially if you are like I've seen a lot of his movies. Like I've seen a lot of like the stuff that he did with like Doris Day. I'm sure you've probably seen those like Pillow Talk and stuff like that. Like those are featured pretty heavily in this movie. But yeah, it's very powerful stuff, and yeah, it's worth checking out.
Awesome. Well, I know you worried about it ending on a downer. I'll pull you out of it with my final titles. I'm doing a trio of titles with the same star. I'll just quickly say, from like, oddly enough, like as a younger person, I became very intrigued by W.C. Fields and just his general, like, I wanted to know more about him. I knew like the Marx Brothers, like I knew Abbott and Costello, but then I like saw W.C. Fields one day, and I'm just like, I would need to know more about him. And like, luckily in recent years, Kino Classics has been really helping me fill in some gaps that I've been trying to fill. So I have 3 titles from W.C. Fields. I'm going to cover them in order, but I have You're Telling Me, Man on the Flying Trapeze, and You Can't Cheat an Honest Man. So yeah, I will start with, I think they're roughly, that's the order that I like them in. Like from the earliest on, like I like them the most. You're Telling Me, I actually just talked about this on the Home Dance Film podcast because I enjoyed it so much. It's just normal just this one, it's a pre-code comedy, which I think allows them to have a little bit more fun. He plays an inventor, and his daughter has fallen in love with this like kind of upper class man or boy, whatever. And his family looks down on their kind of station in life, and there's kind of like that class disparity. And he has invented this punctureless tire that he is wanting to try to sell and like put a patent on. And through circumstances, he ends up on this train, and he meets a woman who he doesn't know is a princess. I know it's like a big leap, but I don't want to like spoil all the intricacies. This is a lot of fun. Like, it's really funny. It's 66 minutes long, so it's very breezy. Like, there's like no fat on it. All three of these films come from new 2K masters. They all look really great. One of the things I have to recommend, like if you're going to watch any of his films, check out this film, because there's, I think, probably like a 6-minute sequence that's one of the best bits of physical comedy that I think I've ever seen.
Wow.
It's like a bit with him trying to set up like a golf tee and like to tee off from a golf like tee, and he has like an inept caddy, and there's just like the physicality of him just like perfectly not being able to take this shot for like a full 6 minutes. Like, things just keep escalating and keeping him from taking the shot. I love classic comedies. I'm always amused by them. Very rarely do I laugh out loud at them, no matter how much I love them. I was laughing out loud at this sequence. It was brilliant. I loved it. It was so funny. So yeah, this one's really good. Man on the Flying Trapeze. He plays a man who, he's not the most truthful man. It starts out, amusingly enough, he is getting robbed by these two men, and he's like kind of like a classic henpecked man whose wife is being like, go stop him, go stop him. Through a series of circumstances, he ends up getting arrested for like bootlegging. And then later on, he is like caught up in a lie because he wants to go see a wrestling match, and he says that his mother-in-law has died, and it becomes a big thing in town. It's just like a perfect like palette for just W.C. Fields to do ridiculous, funny like bits basically the whole time. Once again, this is 66 minutes. It goes very quickly. It's very funny. I really enjoyed this one too. Both of these first two discs come with like W.C. Fields documentaries on them. No commentary tracks. There is a commentary track on this last one. You Can't Cheat an Honest Man, where he plays a circus ringmaster who is like trying to evade the bank and the law. It's not his best movie, but I'm still fairly entertained. It deals a lot with like circus life and all the fun that W.C. Fields can have in a circus atmosphere. It's decent enough. The first two are definitely my favorites of the three, but all three are good. Comes with the audio commentary track from film historian Michael Schlesinger. And yeah, all three of these films, they are good to varying degrees. Like I said, the first two, Man on the Flying Trapeze and You're Telling Me, are the best, but You Can't Cheat an Honest Man is also really good if you're just a big W.C. Fields fan. So all of these releases, Kino Classics, they're like really paying off my early interest in W.C. Fields in recent years. So I'm very grateful to them, and highly recommended for just classic comedy fans.
Nice. That sounds awesome. Yeah, it's so interesting because I have also just been kind of exploring some like silent comedies. Like, I am a huge Harold Lloyd fan now. Like, I love his stuff. So I will definitely have to check those out. So yeah, I think that wraps up our lineup. I know I say this every episode, but like I feel like we had some real bangers in this one, like some really excellent titles. And just to mention again, we are doing the Bordertown giveaway, seasons 1 and 2. So to enter, it's really easy. All you need to do is just comment below and just tell us like what title that we talked about that you are most excited for. And we will be running this till May 24th. So pretty easy, and who doesn't like free stuff?
Get yourself some free things. Come on.
Yeah, and also just a big thank you to Kino for sending us these, and we love them. Their products are amazing. And yeah, so check it out. And as always, thank you so much for hanging out with us.